The average calorie requirement for an adult is about 2,000 calories per day. The recommended distribution of calories is 57% from carbohydrates, 30% from fats, and 13% from protein. You can use a proportion to determine the number of calories that should be from carbohydrates. A proportion can be used to solve a percent problem and is written as a percent equals a part over a whole. This is just like when we find our percent on a quiz or a test grade. If you got 90 questions correct out of a total of 100, this is the part correct, and this is the whole or the total amount of questions. You just divide the two and out will pop your 0.9, and then to change it to a percent, it's 90%. So again, to find a percent, you use the fraction part over whole. Step 1 says to set up a proportion. Remember, a proportion is two ratios set equal to each other. It wants you to let C represent the number of calories from carbohydrates. So you're going to take your percent, and the story above told us that 57% of your calories should be from carbohydrates. Percents are always over 100. Okay, so they put 57 over 100 because that's your percent, and then we're trying to find out how many calories out of the total 2,000 per day recommended. Step 2 wants you to write the proportion to isolate the variable. Isolate the variable just means to get it over here all by itself on the side. In order to do that, all they did was cross-multiplied and divided. So they took 57 times 2,000 on this side, and then on the right they took C times 100. To get C by itself, it's just a one-step equation. You need to move this 100 over. In order to do that, you just have to divide or get rid of it, cancel it out. 100 divided by 100 is going to cancel out. You'll get 1C, and then you also have to divide by 100 on the left. Finally, you just need to perform the multiplication and division to determine the value of C, and we got a final answer of 1,140 calories coming from carbohydrates. You can also use a percent equation to determine the number of calories that should be from carbohydrates. A percent equation can be written in the form of a percent times a whole equals a percent, equals a part. This is just like what we were doing. We were trying to find 15% of a $90 bill equals the tip or the part that you pay extra. Again, you always need to change your percent to a decimal, or down here they used a fraction. Remember, percents are always out of 100, and if you're changing them to a decimal, you have to move it twice to the left. Of, we said, means multiply, and here they show that. And then we're going to use the total amount of calories, which is 2,000. Then we're trying to find C, or how many calories come from carbohydrates. So they just set up the equation using the percent times the total. After they did that, they just multiplied 0.57 times 2,000 equals C, or again, C is equal to 1,140 calories come from carbohydrates. Number 3 says, use proportions and percent equations to calculate the number of calories from fat and protein. So here we're going to do fat in the first part, and protein comes next. You're going to do protein on your own after I show you how to do fat. Again, that are recommended on a 2,000 calorie diet. For each, isolate the variable first, and then determine the number of calories from fat or protein recommended. Finally, write your answer in a complete sentence. Okay, so when we're using a proportion, we do the percent always over 100. So percent is 30, goes over 100. Or you can write it as a decimal would just be 0.3. Then you set that equal to the part, which we're looking to, of fat, over the total amount of calories per day, which is 2,000. Then we can use our cross multiply. And I'm going to erase this to get this out of the way. Again, we can use our cross multiply and divide. This was a 100. So here we have 100F equals 30 times 2,000. In order to get the F all by itself, or to isolate it, we need to get rid of the 100. Opposite of multiply by 100 is divide by 100. You have to do the same thing to both sides. And then you just need to calculate 30 times 2,000 divided by 100. And we should get an answer of F equals 600. So 600 of our daily calories should come from fat. If we use the percent equation, we need to use the percent in decimal form, which I had just written over in the other one as 0.3. We multiply that by the whole, or the total amount of calories, which is 2,000, and that should give us our part, which we're looking for is F. You just do the calculations, 0.3 times 2,000, and again, you should get 600 calories of fat per day. In order to write that as a sentence, the recommended number of calories from fat is 600 calories. I want you to now go through and do the same thing for protein. 13% of your calories should come from protein. We're going to find out how many calories that actually is. This box, you're going to use a proportion, just like we did up here. In this box, you're going to use the percent equation. And then finally, you need to write a full sentence answer. When you're ready, you can go ahead and press play to check your answer. Here's your answer for how many calories to eat of protein per day. You should have gotten 260 calories per day. You now need to go through and finish number 4, 5, and 6, and when you're done, press play. Number 2, they say a person on a 2,000 calorie per day diet consumes 800 calories of fat. They want you to now find the percent of how much fat that is in their daily consumption. You again can use two ways to do this. You can set up a proportion, or you can use the percent equation. If you're going to set up a proportion, remember that you always have to put your percent over 100. In this case, we're looking for the percent, so we leave it as F. We set it up over 100. Our part is the 800 calories of fat, and then the total is the 2,000 calories per day. Step 2 again is to rewrite the proportion to isolate the variable, or to just get F all by itself on one side. In order to do that, we need to cross multiply and then divide. So we're dividing the 2,000 here. And then lastly, just perform the operations, multiply 800 times 100 and then divide by 2,000, and you got an answer of 40% of their calories were fat. That's almost half. When we use the percent equation, we set up the percent equation with the percent times the total equals the part. Okay, multiply the two together, F times 2,000. Step 2 is to rewrite the equation so that we isolate the variable. Again, we want F all by itself. And then lastly, we just do the operation. 800 divided by 2,000, and we get an answer of 0.4. Okay, don't forget that at the end of using the percent equation, you need to move your decimal points 2 places to the right to get an answer of 40%, because percents are always out of 100. Okay, that kind of answers question number 3 for you on the next page. So I want you to go through and answer number 3 and number 4, and when you're ready, you can press play to check your answers. Here are the answers to number 4. Please check to make sure you got them correct and you understand how to do them. And then you can stop here and you are done.